Joining me on the podcast today is Ben Tansley, aka Tano, one of my closest friends and someone who has been one of the biggest influences in my life and the inspiration behind some of my biggest challenges. An accident that would paralyze him from the chest down and would change his life and steer mine in a completely new direction. His resilience, ambition, and positivity is what empowers you to believe anything is possible. Having been told he would never walk again, his journey to taking that first step is what has driven me to test my limits. Understanding the value of life and seeing firsthand how quickly it can change in an instant. He's my reminder to make every second count. In order to succeed, you must be brave. So I have some incredibly exciting news. Now, some of you may already know this, but for those of you who don't, I've just had my first book published by Penguin called Fortune Favours the Brave. Now, the book consists of 76 short lessons on finding strength in vulnerability. Now, the questions I'd like to put to you: do you feel lost? Surrounded by the wrong people? Do you find it hard to see a future? Do you struggle with your mental health? Have you been looking for a reason to live? Are you wanting to find fulfillment in life? Do you wish to test yourself both mentally and physically? And are you struggling to find direction or purpose in life? Now, I've battled most of my life with the questions I've just asked you. And over the years, I found solutions to overcome them and achieve the goals I had set myself. It is never too late to start a new chapter. You just need to be brave enough to take that first step. Now, if you're wanting to take that step, you can pre-order my book now on Amazon, Waterstones, or simply clicking the link in my bio on my Instagram handle, Joshua_Patterson_JP now.
Those of you that probably are new to this journey, sat across me is my best mate from Norfolk. His name, better known to most, would be Ben Tansley, but to me, his name on my phone is Sham or Shambles, because at any given time when he calls me, he is either the luckiest man on earth, which I don't think any could dispute that, or you've done something wrong.
No, that I've not had nothing go wrong for a
Listen
long
to the
while.
panic in your voice.
That's true though. And the thing is, like, you always, who do you call for advice?
You.
Exactly. So if I was that bad at getting things wrong, you wouldn't call me. Actually, maybe I made a lot of mistakes, so I got good at giving advice.
That's the point. You've made the mistakes, and because you're older than me, I'm learning from you.
Yeah.
It's through those mistakes that you've got the wisdom, my man.
That's true though. Like, and that's the same I feel with life. Do you know what I mean? You don't ever get anywhere unless you make mistakes, do you? Like, we grow through our tough times, and that is life in general. I think it's when you don't learn from your mistakes, you don't progress as a person.
Yeah, and I guess most people would relate to that, right? But even just what you've just said there, someone might listen to that and be like, wow, I didn't even think of that, which is so true, because actually so many times things are in front of us and we're exposed to them, but we don't actually take in
There's a lesson.
what has happened.
A lesson in everything. Yeah, they say a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And I think that's so true. Like, you have to, everything, you know, if you're quite calm and, I don't know, you've had to learn to be calm, and you're like, every one of your traits has come at a cost, and you have to go through them trials and tribulations to kind of get the quality you kind of like about yourself. And that's just how life works in my eyes.
Why do you think the synergy is there between you and I? Like, what do you reckon the formula is? Do you think it is the connection between Norfolk? Do you think it's the way that we've been raised? Is it the environment we're in?
Never fell out, have we? Like, never. I don't think we've ever disagreed on anything. I think most things I tell you, you kind of take on board. And like, I know 9 times out of 10 you'll ring me and you'll be looking at something one way, and then I'll kind of give you a different outlook on it. You're like, yeah, maybe you're right. Like, and I don't know, just you clicked, didn't you, with people, and we did from day one, didn't we, really?
100%. Do you know what I think with you, the thing that I'm most grateful for, and I think this is testament to a strong friendship, is that I feel like I can call you at any time of the day, not only will you answer, but it never feels like a burden.
No.
And I think that's so rare.
And I know every phone call is going to be an hour long. So when I do answer, like, it's not a women thing. I'm like, okay, right, he needs me. I better answer.
It's been an absolute game changer though. And, you know, I think it's just everything that I guess we've been through as friends over the past, I'd say 6 years in particular, probably have been the most valuable in our friendship in terms of what's happened and, you know, being able to kind of like lean on one another. You know, you look back and God, there was some serious hardships, but you know what, I look at it now with a smile on my face and just think, wow, it's almost like a partnership, isn't it? You know, you're sort of married to one another where you've been through so much, but you've prevailed and overcome it, and it just solidifies that relationship.
Oh, mate, well, you are like a massive part of my story. And we did, like, if we're both honest, our friendship grew after my accident, to be fair. Like, we was good friends before, you know, we'd do bits together, but we probably didn't speak weekly, did we? Like, that was just, we was friends, you know? But I think then since my accident, like, you know, I mean, you are a big part of my journey, and that is a God's honest truth. Like, even from, like, making me put it on Instagram and kind of documenting it, like, I didn't really know the importance of that until you kind of look back on that now. Like, that helped me so much during my early days without really thinking about it, because I had to tell a story. So, and I didn't just tell the good things. I was telling the good things, the bad things, and that honest, actually having that grow like it did so fast because of you. And then getting messages from everybody else, not just messages of like praise, you're doing well, or you're going to do this, but like, look, I've read your story and I could do with some help. Like, and I still get them today. Like, literally speaking to a young lad at the moment, and he might listen to this actually. He's a lovely lad, lives in America, college football player, had an accident, paralysed, and I speak to him weekly, like, and he'll ask me advice, and like, I could show you some messages he sent me the other night. Like, I'm helping him through his story, but that wouldn't have happened had you not have inspired me to do that, or, you know, actually just your position of having your following stem to me getting 30,000 followers, and it just give purpose to my injury. Do you know what I mean? So that was such an important role early on, you know, just having that purpose.
I think speaking out, like, everyone's adversity can be so different. And so sometimes there might be that reluctance to connect with someone. You know, someone might look at someone with a spinal injury and someone who struggles with depression and go, well, what correlation is there? But hardship is hardship, and you can learn so much from other people, but you can also take strength from their resilience.
Yeah.
Seeing what that person's going through and how they overcome it, you can take so much from that. And I think that's why everything it almost fell into place, where it was like, I'd struggled with my mental health. I spoke openly. I had that platform to share it to people, to see that reaction. You know, when it comes to these spinal injuries, what a lot of people don't realize is, like, even if you are given a diagnosis by the doctor, that first 6 months to a year can define the rest of your life.
Like, spinal cord injuries are so, like, individual.
It's
know,
broad,
like,
isn't it?
It's yeah, I mean, and some people might have a hope of a recovery. Some people have no hope. You know, that generally is, you know, if someone has a complete spinal cord injury, you know, they could throw 1 million hours into physio. They're probably never, ever going to stand unless medical science changes.
I think it's more the psychological state than the physical.
But then I was then going to say, like, but still going in with that attitude of, I'm going to give it my best shot, you will still be the best version of yourself, whether you get there or whether you're not. It's like when I do these challenges, now I've just signed up recently to do a 1 mile open water swim, you know, with 2 weeks training. I've not been in a pool. Today is the first time I've been in a pool in 7 years. Well, I've done one little swim.
I don't know. Whenever we've been to like Marbella and there's an attractive woman at the end of the pool, you seem to be in there quite quickly.
There's being in a pool and there's swimming in a pool. I mean, like, I can stand there in a pair of shorts and look unparalysed.
I'm telling you now, the minute there's an attractive woman, he's doing butterfly straight over there.
I'm sprinting. But like I've said, yeah, I'll do this. And I go in that with the belief that I can do it. You know, like, that's 64 lengths of a pool, which is a lot of swimming, open water. If I go into that challenge with the mindset of, I don't really know if I'm going to do it, I'm probably going to give up halfway. If I go with the mindset of I can do it, I might get 3/4 of the way and fail, but I'm still going to get that further because I believe I can do it. And that's just that attitude towards things, isn't it? The mindset, you know, if I'm going to be the best version I can, So even though you will never walk, you're still going to be a better version of yourself, that type of thing.
Yeah. You would never wish anything to happen to a friend, but if there was one friend for it to happen to, it was almost like you were the person that was right for it. And I say that because how you've responded to what you've been faced with and what you've done off the back of it has gone on to help not only myself, but so many people across the globe.
But it was always going to happen. Like I always say, you know, it happened how it happened, and it wouldn't happen any other way because it didn't. Do you know what I mean? Like that was always going to be my part of my story. You know, everything leading up to that was set me up in a way to deal with it how I have. And the same with you, everything in your life was coming to this moment as well. Like I just look at life as this massive spider web of people's wishes and manifestations, and how the universe tries to make them all happen is like, just, you know, you imagine if you had to put a jigsaw puzzle and get everyone's wishes to work, you know, you can't just give everyone what they want, but to make it work in a way, like there could have been a lady who was in that queue of traffic on my dad, my accident, and her wish could have been, I'd love to be the first person at the scene of an accident. You know, so my accident has happened, but really that was about her. She got her wish, you know, other people got their wishes. And it just stems, like I have this great ability of, sometimes you can't see why things happen, but I can look back later in life and see that's actually why that was meant to happen. Like there has to be meaning in the world. Like I genuinely, like, I don't know what the meaning is and the purpose of everybody having consciousness, but you know, as far as we're aware, we're the only planet in the solar system with meaning. So it has to be some reason. And like we go through these lives and things happen to get to a desired effect. Like I had a man visit me in hospital who I never knew, you know, didn't know. He come to see me, traveled 3 hours, and I just thought, why has he come to see me? He brought me a present and actually become a bit of a friend. Visited him, and he went through his own issues a couple of years later, like had a drug addiction, called me to tell me, and I never thought well, out of everyone, why are you calling me? But went through recovery, sorted himself out. Well, a year later down the line, one of my family members got a drug addiction, and I put them two together. He's now helped my brother-in-law through it, and had he not seen me on Instagram, do you know what I mean? So like everything, at the time, I can remember thinking, why is he, out of everyone on Instagram, found me, want to see my story? But he never found me to help me. He found me because later on down the line, he was meant to help my brother-in-law, do you know what I mean? So I never see that at the time, but now I can look back and see that part of the spider web is why that works. So had I not had my accident, that had led to my sister get divorced, and do you know what I mean? Everything just interlinks, and I have that belief that everything happens to a reason.
I think your outlook is everything, isn't it? I think when things happen to you at the time, you would wish it would never have happened. But at the same time, learning from that, think about the future. Like there is someone who is going to go through that same thing a year from now, 2 years from now. And actually what you've learned from that can really help them through that process.
Yeah.
So when you accumulate all of these things collectively, the abundance of knowledge that you inherit off the back of it, like, and I think that's the problem, is that people probably don't necessarily factor that.
That everything happens for a reason mentality just allows you not to look at things in a negative way, because even bad things, what you think about at the time, if you go, well, there has to be a reason to it, you don't allow that to affect you in a way you get stuck there. You know, and that's like if I said to you, like, you know, would you go back and change anything in your life? You know, you've had a crazy tough time, to be fair. Like a lot what nobody probably even knows about. You know, I'm your best mate, and I talk to you on an intimate level. And there's times like some of the things you tell me, I think, oh, like you had a few years, didn't you? It was just thing after thing after thing, and I was like, you need to tell your story, but you had your main reasons why you didn't. I totally understand that, but you know, it's just crazy what people go through.
Yeah, and I guess it's that empathy that you feel for one another, right? Like,
but you wouldn't change it. That was my point.
No,
like, if I said
100%.
to you, would you change anything?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because, you know, if I look at the last 6 years in particular, almost 7 now, of what's gone on, you know, those have been some of the toughest years of my life, but they have defined me in such a way that I've gone on to do the things that I have. And actually, how different would my life look at this present moment had your accident not happened, for instance?
But not just my accident. I think the accident is one thing, but then obviously you've gone through a relationship breakup, you've gone through all that process, and like had one of them things not happened, you wouldn't have done any of the things you've done. You know, you wouldn't have raised all this money for charity. You wouldn't have changed people's lives. Like, you'd have probably still been down that route of like Made in Chelsea, that kind of like, you don't know, do you? But look how you're down a completely different road with just doing stuff you enjoy and making a difference in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you change one element of your life, then none of that happens.
I think it's just like, it's those defining moments. I mean, to give context, you know, coming up this August will be the 7-year anniversary where, you know, Sham Tano basically came to
So
meet.
many names. He calls me something different weekly.
He came to meet India for the first time. She was a baby, and it was just the most beautiful day. And I really wanted to get my motorbike license, and I remember just talking about it, just saying, "How cool is this?" Like, Sham rocked up with his son on the back of his bike. His daughter Fern was on the back of his partner's bike at the time. It was just a really proud moment for me to showcase my daughter to my best friends. And I just remember, like, my face, I was just beaming on my way back to London from Norfolk, just talking about the experience. And then out of nowhere, just got this phone call to say that, you know, he'd been in this accident. And I didn't really know how to process it, to be honest with you, because you never really know what the outcome of these accidents are and the magnitude of the injuries. And then, you know, later I was told that, you know, he had been paralyzed from this accident and, you know, he would never walk again, essentially. And I remember it so well, where I started crying and I couldn't stop because I was thinking about all these things, because I'd never been exposed to this before. All I could think about was, this was the end of your life, and, you know, what opportunity would you have and how would this change things? What person would you become? And that was, again, just a lack of understanding. And it was the phone call when you rang me up and you said, "Listen, bud, I've had a few minutes to cry. But ultimately, you know, the big thing for me right now is to prove the odds wrong. But most importantly of all is that, you know, one day Fern is going to want to get married and I am going to be the man who walks her down the aisle. Like, are you going to help me?" And just your energy and how you responded to that changed my complete outlook on everything that you were about to go through, because from a mindset point, you were ready to go to war and I wanted to do that with you. And the funniest thing was, I think you'd only given yourself, I'm going to get the time frame wrong, but you basically tried to get in touch with the GB Paralympic team to sign up. And what did the person say to you? How long have you had your injury for?
So I'd done it whilst I was still strapped. Like, I always say, like, whenever people contact me on Instagram or whatever, like about life-changing events or whatever, I'm like, look, the quicker you can accept it for what it is, you know, like, acceptance is a superpower, then you are truly ready to kind of create a new life. Do you know what I mean? Like, dwelling on the past and stuff like that. So that acceptance, and that's just something I'd done for some reason instantly. Like, I was just, it's like everyone kept saying to me, "You're dealing with this like you've grazed your knee," you know. But I can remember thinking, and I've literally spoke about this morning, like, my dad, because that hit my mum and my dad really hard. Like, they'd seen me go from this athletic lad, I'd always been quite sporty, you know, like boxer, just a good dad, like superhero in my kids' eyes, to someone strapped to a bed. Like, they struggled. And I can remember saying to my dad, "Don't worry, like, I'm going to be a Paralympian." Like, because I just thought, you know, as God closes one door, he opens a window type thing. Like, there's going to be some opportunities there. And in my head, I was going to be the best Paralympian ever. I thought, no one's going to touch me. Turns out there's some very, very, very talented people in wheelchairs and disabilities, you know, so that didn't transpire. But I accepted it quickly.
It's all about acceptance.
I can remember laying in the hospital bed, so thinking, right, I want to get into disability sport. Like, so sent an email in, like, how do I get into wheelchair athletics, javelin, whatever. The lady contacted me and said, I'm calling that from the athletics committee. I said, yes, like, how to get into it? She said, "How long have you been paralysed?" And I said, 3 weeks. And she said, "Oh, so you've been out of hospital 3 weeks?" I said, "No, I'm still strapped to the hospital bed." And she was like, "I've never had anyone call me while still being strapped to a hospital bed." I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, you don't even know how you're going to recover." Like, I was like, "Well, just what do? I need to get the ball rolling. I'm ready to go." And that was my approach early on, just throw myself into everything. And I know, we're going to discuss the book, but that title of Fortune Favours the Brave, like that was my attitude to everything. Just try it. Do you know what I mean? Just go out, try it, see what happens. If you don't like it, then don't do it again.
This week's episode is sponsored by Runner. Runner is a personalized running coaching app helping runners of all abilities train for any goal. From a first 5K to a marathon, even an ultra marathon. When the time is right for you, your plan can be created within a minute and ready to go. With each plan, Runner provides all the help a runner requires, including strength and conditioning, and you can also reach out to the team at any time via the support tab inside the app. For a 2-week free trial on any personalized running plan, use the code PHOENIX. No matter your goal, Runner is there to help you achieve it.
Your bravery is what spurred me on so much. It was knowing you were in this wheelchair, fighting every inch to be able to walk again, something that we all take we take for granted.
And we don't know how we do it. Like, that's the thing what blows my mind. If I said to you now, like, how do you actually walk? Like, you would say, I just walk. You lift your knee, you lift your toes. Like no one actually thinks about it. So, like, when you start actually, me now thinking about every step as I'm doing it, blows my mind to think we just do these things so effortlessly, when actually it's a complex thing, like 200 muscles or whatever it takes to actually walk, and the process of how you do it, like what muscles fire when, like, you just don't think of how lucky we are to do them things until it's kind of taken away.
It must be pretty cool though to have like a real deeper understanding though of the mechanics of your body, because like you said, I guess, unless you are tested and asked that question, then in reality, why would you ever ask those questions yourselves? You don't need to, but by being in the thick of it, that's something that I guess you have to have a better understanding. I think when you were in that wheelchair, I personally really wanted to try and understand, obviously without the injury, psychologically what it is that you were going through. I wanted to really understand different environments, some of the hardships that would come with it. And that's what changed my life. I went from a life, I would say, where I was really trying to find my purpose to actually finding it. And I found myself in this wheelchair. Tanner basically, when he'd called me from the hospital, said that he'd signed the both of us up to the Berlin Marathon and he wanted me to support him. And instead of running it, would I do it in a wheelchair? And that's something that I never would have ever done or ever even really considered had you not asked me the question. And when you did, I was like, it was a no-brainer. Got this wheelchair and I would commute to work and back in it, which made me feel uncomfortable because, people looking at me in a certain way, or if I struggled to get up curbs and people not wanting to support, and some people being quite brutally rude. There was a bit of social
pressure to it, wasn't there?
Yeah, big time. It was an uncomfortable space to be in because there were so many questions asked. But by doing that, I was learning so much about you and other people. And then when you speak to them, just the depths of the conversations were great. And I was so unbelievably humbled, like when you were like, oh, I'm going to be a Paralympian. And then, off the bat, you realize actually how unbelievably gifted these individuals are. It's not just a case of you have an injury and you just waltz in. I remember going to the track when I'd met David Weir, and he put me in like a race around a 400-meter track against children, essentially as young as like 8 years of age. And there's me thinking with my physical stature that I have this advantage. I came last by about 150 meters, but that again was just such a wake-up call, and was so special understanding that, where I, the adult, am meant to be the one with all this wisdom, and yet I'm learning from an 8-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, that whole David Weir thing, like I said, in my head, I was going to be a Paralympian, and I can even remember the first time I see him at a charity event. Like I said, I introduced, hi, how are you? This before we kind of touched, but I think this might have been how we actually made the connection, because I'd spoke to him previously, and I can remember looking at him and think, yeah, I could take you. Like, in my head, that was my mentality, yeah. But then actually, he is phenomenal. And actually, he's become a friend of both of ours now, which is another part of the story. Like, you just go down these roads and meet different people, and he is an amazing athlete. And
I think with what's special about you, though, Bud, is that you altered my mindset on so many levels. Like, when I cried that day, I was worrying about all the things that were not my concern, if that makes sense. It was I was thinking how I thought you were thinking, when in reality, it's the energy and I guess the thought process you had that was radiating off onto me, where I was like, well, hang on. If he's going into this with a positive mentality, then why would I torture myself thinking about all the negatives that come with it? For him, it's about trying to put one foot in front of the other. And for some reason, I'm finding myself standing static. That doesn't make sense. And just how you lifted everyone around you, I think, is what completely changed everything.
Having children for me was the best bit about that injury as well. Like, because I knew if I was down, then that would affect my children. My children ultimately were down, my family were down, my friends were down. So I just didn't allow myself to be down. You know, it was like, right, busy, don't think about it, just do. And that did lift people around me. Do you know what I mean? It had the opposite effect of what you would think that type of injury had. And, you know, it just shifts everyone's outlook on life, like changed my kids' outlook on life, changed yours. You know, it's, like I said, it's just a nice part of the story. It just gives you a different outlook on life.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you've got that responsibility, you know, maybe that's where the synergy is as well, is that both of us were parents at the same time. And you know, India was obviously a hell of a lot younger than your two kids, but at the same time, you know, they are going to grow up and they are going to learn from everything that you do, and ultimately your outlook on life and how ambitious you are.
You're very emotionally driven. You know, I think I always say this about you, like out of all my friends, I said, Josh does everything with his full heart. Do you know what I mean? Like, and the amount of times you call me and say, oh, you know, you've had a discrepancy with somebody, and I'm like, yeah, but just because you're so emotionally driven, and sometimes you expect everybody to be on that same level as you, and that sometimes when someone don't do that hurt you, take it quite personally and hurt. And I think that's why we grew as a people as well, because you can see the story, you can see the struggle, and like you not buy into that, like you just understand it and feel it. Do you know what I mean? But that is you. Like you do things with your heart, you know, whether that's business, relationships, whatever. Like you're either in it or you're not. Do you know what I mean? And that is one of the nicest things about you. You just are. You have a massive heart. Do you know what I mean? You are just driven by being a nice person. Like you want to change the world, and you know sometimes it's always at your own struggle, like the amount of stuff you put yourself through. But that is you.
I think you and I just both accept that we are flawed. You know, we've made mistakes, but I think it's a case of that's fine. It's about accepting that you're going to make mistakes, but I think ultimately it's utilizing the resources or the platform you have. And it does come from a personal place, because, you know, you with the spinal community, me with mental health, you know, as two individuals who have struggled with that, you can really empathize with anyone that goes through that the same. And so I have an opportunity with the platform I have to try and connect and help with as many people as I possibly can, but also to learn from as many people.
Yeah.
You know, I may feel like I'm articulating myself the right way to an individual, or I might be doing a physical challenge again to connect with someone, but I must be completely off the mark, because how someone from here thinks could be very different to this person. And it's only by being exposed to that person and talking to them can I get a true understanding of that.
Yeah. Well, you never know someone's true struggle, do you? Like, and I think, you know, everyday life now, people are always different versions of themselves. You know, like the person you are with me is a different person to who you are with India, you know, and you go into a work meeting, you're a different person. Like, they're all versions of you, but we are constantly selling ourselves in different ways to different people. And you know, someone can portray to be this confident person, but then actually when you get them on an intimate level, there's so much more of a story to it. And that's why, like, I have these podcasts and talking to people, but I love to hear people's stories and just see what's made them, you know, and that is the best, not best thing, but something good else to come from it puts me in positions where I can talk to people. They'll buy into my story and they want to chat, and then you actually get to understand them at a deeper level, you know, like there's not this bravado, they've got to be someone. If I was this athletic lad, you know, six-pack, whatever, no one really wants to open up to that. But people do, and I just love learning people's stories about I love life, and that is my thing. Like I genuinely am happy. Like I just enjoy waking up, and it's not about I'm driven. I like business. I like to earn money. I like to do this, but I just love life.
I just like seeing people succeed, you know. And I think that in the book was so important to me, to showcase other individuals especially somebody like yourself and what you've been through, and actually the impact that has had on me is massive, and how you meet these individuals, and they could be years apart, but consistently learning from them. It's such a powerful thing. I think being able to utilize your platform to showcase others, and hopefully they do it themselves too, is equally as important. I think it's trying to find those genuine individuals.
Yeah, I think anyone what goes through struggle is genuine, like they are, and you relate with them quite quickly because you just see the struggle, and that is, I think when people see you're genuine, then it's easier to buy into it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's what's been probably quite hard. I think that's why I feel safe with you and have so much love and respect for you, because I think the sad reality is I've been exposed to an awful lot of bullshit, to be honest with you. And I think that's where there's such a lack of trust with so many individuals, is that unfortunately in this space, you get a lot of individuals who are unbelievably good at portraying themselves in a certain way, striving for improvement in some capacity.
Yeah.
And really it's just climbing that ladder. And it's just, for me, like you said, when you put your heart into something, I find that so hard to take when I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character.
Yeah.
And I seem to have got it so fundamentally wrong on so many occasions. And just that belief in people, it starts to diminish. It's a case of like emotional maturity and just maturity in general, right? Is that sometimes things can be misunderstood so easily, and actually just take a step back and just review things, It comes down to a person's environment, the way that they've been raised, how they articulate themselves. Things can be so different.
Yeah.
What the end goal might be, how they feel they need to achieve that end goal, but make mistakes by doing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not personal.
Exactly. It's not about you. Like, I've often said this to you, haven't I, when you've called me, and I'm like, look, but your view of it and how you feel about it might not be how they feel about it. And you have to just understand that's out of your control, although you're hurt by it and you can't see why that's ultimately their decisions. Like, I'm often saying this to you, and I'm like, just don't let it get to you. Like, that's their decision. That's on them.
Do you know what's crazy, right? So I was talking to some of my team about this particular episode, and I was kind of umming and ahhing about who I wanted to get on to talk about it. And, you have been the biggest inspiration and possibly the catalyst for everything that I've done. And, for me, it's just, you've not seen this properly, like the hard version, the copy. And I wanted to share it with you now. And I just wanted to say, you are one of the biggest reasons for that even becoming a thing.
Nice. Yeah.
And the funniest thing about this is that smile and laughter that you're holding within is if when you first met me, somebody said, could you see Joshua Patterson writing a book? What would your honest answer be?
No. That was the funniest story from when we met. I can't tell anyone. That still sticks in my
How
head.
does it feel seeing that?
I'm proud is the honest thing.
Just open it up and have a look inside. Look at those photos of us.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just...
There's two photos in there at the start of the book. One of them is myself when I visited Tano for the first time in hospital. This is not long after he was told, he wouldn't walk. We're sat next to each other. We're in our wheelchairs and we just completed the Berlin Marathon. And it's so special because the transition and what's happened in life since then.
That was very early on when you come see me, like very, very early on. That was actually when you come and said, look, I think you should document this on Instagram, because it wasn't on Instagram at the time as I'd come off. I think my ex-girlfriend was like, on it. I've been off it for about a year, 2 years. So he was like, no, get back on it. And I was like, is she going to let me back on it? I don't know. And then we put it, and honestly, that was such a turning point for me, because I don't think that had happened, I wouldn't be on my journey. Do you know what I mean? So that was...
But mate, honestly, your strength and so many of the people in that book is what really inspired me to do that. I'm going to be really honest to everyone that's listening. Like, one of my biggest fears in life was writing that book out of feeling of rejection, disconnection. More often than not, people will question the why behind it, and just your own worth. Like, there's so much imposter syndrome where You know, you're just thinking like, what actual value is there for my book? I don't have a degree. You know, you look at some of the individuals that you put on pedestals and how they articulate themselves and these global platforms and the impact they have. But actually, one of the best things I did was commit to it, because by writing that and reflecting on so many of these pivotal moments in my life, this book isn't going to be a success because of a degree. The success is going to come from the life experiences that I've been exposed to and creating that relatability for anyone that reads it. You know, ultimately, there are so many moments there that have changed, saved, or improved my life. And I think that ultimately is the biggest ambition with this particular book, that it takes you on these 76 chapters, and I've made them brief, again, through my own experiences. You know, I really struggle with my attention. I didn't want people to feel overwhelmed by the chapters themselves. And so I've kept it brief and to the point, but I think the impact will be absolutely monumental.
But this is your story, and that is the thing. Like, anybody can judge it, do whatever. This is your interpretation of the world, you know, and what you think the world needs. And yeah, I don't read books, but I will read this one. Just
do you know what's interesting is chapter 1? Just read it out for me. What does it say?
Rise like a phoenix.
So Rise Like a Phoenix came from an alter ego that I basically invented on these challenges when I found myself utterly broken, where I would start caring, right? I'd literally go, car, car. And by doing that, would make them laugh and then make me laugh in turn, and then take my mind off the pain and suffering that I was going through.
That was during John O'Groats, wasn't it? I can remember.
That was through John O'Groats to Land's End. You know, I'd say to George, because I was going so slow in the wheelchair, I was cruising like a tortoise, rise like a phoenix. And then we started putting like the arm movements in. And then through the 76 marathons, I found myself through so many times where I was just both physically and mentally broken. And I would just get a car in the background and it'd be Reese, or it could be Chris. Or like if they saw I was down, I'd just get a little, there's a phoenix coming out today. And it just lifted my mood. And for me, there was just no better chapter where it was like, anyone who's reading this type of book is probably going to find themselves in a sticky position. It doesn't matter what walk of life you are from, and it's about rising from those ashes. And it just sets the tone for the rest of it. And the last thing I write in that book, it's not a chapter, this was an extra, was what do you want to be remembered for? And I think that's the most powerful question that you can be asked. And what was more important about that was that when I was asked the question, I viewed it as, what would I have wanted to achieve throughout my life to be remembered for? And the person went, no. What would you be remembered for today? If I gave you today or tomorrow, it changes your outlook on everything that you do.
Yeah.
And it's not about living each day as if it's your last. It's just about making the most of each day. Even if that's a single thing, if that's calling up a friend where a friendship has been broken, or rekindling a relationship, or getting outside to walk for the first time, or being brave enough to go up to that person that you were fearful to speak to. Just step out of your comfort zone.
And enjoying what you do. Yeah. I'd done a post on my Instagram about like the last, I sat outside Booker's, and some people come running past me. And I just watched them run down the road, and I thought, I wonder when the last time is I actually went running. And I couldn't remember when that was, you know, but I thought, cool, if I could go back to that day now, knowing that was the last time I was going to run, how much more would I appreciate that? Like, I'd probably done that run, got back to my car and was like knackered or moaned, oh, I hate this, can't be asked to do that, Whereas if I knew that was the last time I was ever going to run, like, you would just run forever, wouldn't you? And that's the thing, like, you never know when the last time is you're going to do something like this. You've had so many lasts in your life without knowing they're the last. Like the last time you went to play out with your friends on the park, you know, you all went to play out on the park, you all went home, said see you tomorrow, but that never happened. That was the last time you done it. And there's just so many of them things. So like, if every day you just had that outlook, like that could be the last time I call my mum, or I could call my dad, or, you know, you just appreciate it a little bit more, I think.
When I did joggle, and there were times where I genuinely could have given up, I was just broken. Like there was nothing more to give. And in the back of my mind, the one thing I constantly thought about was, he wants to walk again. He wants to walk again. And I felt like if I'd have given up in that moment, what message would that have sent to you when you were faced with something?
Yeah.
And the same for any other person that had invested in it. And then the transition from that, when you did start to take steps and walk again, and you proved the odds completely wrong, for me, it was that psychological state of I've struggled through my life so often with my mental health, and I have been at the point of suicide. And actually, by giving up, what message is that sending to someone who wants to give up? It wasn't an option. And how that has powered me through so many moments which were make or break.
Yeah.
It's like it's changed everything. And that's the importance of the why behind anything that you do. If you look at yours was to walk again, but equally to try and inspire so many others that are going through what you're going through to walk again too, but equally to have a more positive outlook if that's not likely to happen.
Yeah. Just to know I've done my best. And that's like, there's so many elements to why we do what we do, you know, and like you said, like during them tough times, you're thinking, oh, you know, he's doing this, but then ultimately you don't want to let people down. You don't want people to see that you failed. Like all them little things make you. That was a lot of yous that was, but it does, doesn't it? You know, and that's just us as people, you know, that's why, you know, I've had a better outlook and put all my heart into learning to walk again, because it's just my mentality. And that's like this fortune favors the brave, like be brave to try, because it's better to try and fail than actually never try at all. You know, if I'd have got to now and I hadn't tried to walk again, I'd always have that doubt of, could I have walked? And that would be harder for me to live with than actually, I tried my hardest, you know, I didn't get there. So that's just, you know, that's what makes us us.
Do you know what I've kind of struggled with though, is that now I've written that, I've had a couple of family members sort of, you know, say a few things that they don't mean to be a criticism, but that's how it comes across. And in my head, I'm sort of like, oh, okay. And then I've had a few friends sort of take the mick about the book itself. And again, that's the whole point of this podcast. It's to be completely raw. I've got absolutely no interest showcasing to someone that these things don't affect you. You know, putting yourself out there is possibly one of the most vulnerable things you can do. And that is exactly what that book's about. And to the point where I actually called up the publisher and she said, you know, I haven't seen you post a few things about the book lately. You know, why is that? And I said, I don't know. I feel like because my closest circle have almost sort of like critiqued me on it, I'm almost fearful of it being rejected. And she was like, listen, you look at what you've written. And I think the reason why I'm saying this to you, bud, is that, you know, I want to ask you the question, like, I'm fearful to put this book out there, but actually your opinion, even though you've not read it, means the world to me. And actually it's hearing from you and the understanding of why you think that book is important and what it can do.
But this is your honest opinion. Like this, you know, you're going to be vulnerable because I feel like this is pulling chapters out of your head. Do you know what I mean? And like I said earlier, you do everything with your full heart, like just emotion. So whatever you've put in here is because you mean it from your heart, and that's brave. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's almost like letting someone on your Safari search history. I mean, they get to look inside your brain at what you've been thinking, and this is that. And I think sometimes the people close to us are hardest on us, and they probably don't see it like every other one would. So like we might take the mick, or they don't see the purpose in the book. But I can tell you now, like everyday people who are going through struggles, that might be the difference between pushing on and not pushing on. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing with family and friends. Do you know what I mean? Some of them are honest and sometimes you don't want to hear what they are, but then they don't see things as someone who don't know you would. You know, they're reading it as their version of you. So they've got a made up version of you and they're reading this and thinking, is that him? Does he think that? You know, whereas someone reading it who don't know you is getting an honest, deep, heartfelt version of you.
Yeah. It is surreal. It's so surreal to think that is going out there. But I really want people to understand that, you know, you're not defined by what you have, but you are what you do with it. And I think even though I've written this book, the portrayal is not that I'm the end goal.
No.
I've made it.
Yeah.
It's the fact I'm still flawed. I'm still making mistakes. I'm still struggling mentally. But I'm still willing to put the work in to understand how I can improve that in any way that I can. And every challenge I've ever done there, I've been at my most vulnerable. We've had those phone calls leading up to most of them where something has happened in my life, but those struggles have then given me so much strength to go on and prevail with whatever it was that I set myself. And I just want people to understand it is never too late to start something, and it's all relative. There are too often times where people make comparisons and go, oh, this person's done that and this person's done that, but I've only done this. It's the same. I had somebody come up to me recently and they said, oh, I've just run my first K. It's not your 76. And I went, hang on, my 76 marathons is your 5K.
Yeah.
Whether it's your first run or your 40th run, we're still going to struggle.
Yeah.
We're still going to think exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up, and certainly don't bring yourself down, because actually what you've just done there, you are the inspiration to somebody else. Imo, one of the girls I talk about in this book, right? She came up to me on a treadmill and wanted to run 7 marathons in 7 days, but understandably so, her environment were dubious about it. They were nervous about what the outcome could be, having her best interests at heart, but it almost influenced her decision not to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful we had that conversation, because she went against the grain and she went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
She's just recently, a few years later, I've just been to support her, broken the world record running the 3 peaks in the fastest time and beat the world record by 18 hours.
Yeah,
she was running 100+ kilometers a day.
Yeah.
For 6 consecutive days.
Yeah.
With an hour or 2 sleep at most.
That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Now, had she had that conversation with somebody else and not gone ahead with that 7 and 7,
change your mindset. Never done it. Yeah.
And my point is that I can't have that conversation in person with everyone, but everyone that reads that book has the potential for the same outcome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, they see this, you know, even if someone walks past that in Tesco's and just picks it up, reads the back, Josh Patterson, okay. Then that leads them to message you on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? It's there, isn't it? Like, and that's there, and it's there forever.
But it's highlighting the people like yourself within it. There are going to be chapters you are going to connect with, and there are chapters that are not. It's so broad in terms of the topic of conversation that's brought up. You know, I think it's through learnings of other people and their outlooks on life. By implementing them yourself, it's trial and error to see actually what works. Like for you, Bud, your mindset is the greatest asset that you can have. Like when the doctor said to you, you're never going to walk again, and then you did. I remember you telling me, they sat there being like, I don't understand. This is almost a miracle. I cannot fathom how you've managed to do this. But your grit, determination, and persistence with your rehab, mate, it was so phenomenal to witness.
Yeah, like self-belief. I mean, I can remember the doctor coming in. Like, I'd made, you know, you read things. So she operated on me, then she went on holiday. So it was like a 2-3 week window where I hadn't been told the news. And I kept saying to my parents, I said, look, you know, I've done some research. I'm asking doctors this, cherry-picking information. Like, they're going to tell me I'm never going to walk. And my dad's like, you don't know that. And then the doctor came in and my brother actually asked a question and said, so is he going to walk again? And she was like, no, you know, unfortunately not. And it's made such a mess of his back, his spinal cord damage, And over the course of an hour's conversation, she was in there. I sort of said to her, like, so, you know, how do you know, like, I won't walk? Like, and she said, well, just the damage you've done is highly unlikely. And I can remember saying, well, you've gone from never going to walk to highly unlikely in like an hour's conversation. Like, there is hope. You know, that just that little transverse of what she said to me was like that beacon of hope. You know, never, highly unlikely. Okay, there is hope there. And that's what, you know, this book does, doesn't it? Give you that little bit of hope or a different outlook on things. You know, had I only listened to the first part and not had the outlook on the second, then would I have thrown as much physio and recovery into to what I've done? I don't know, but
I mean, your outlook is so broad, though, Bud. It's not just focused on the spinal community. I guess for anyone that is faced with some form of hardship, what's the best advice that you can give them?
Mine's always acceptance. You know, whatever you're going through, like, just accept it. You can't change it. It's done, and believe that it will come better. You know, like, I think we've all had stages in our life where we're like, oh, this is terrible. But then does anything ever turn out to forever be bad? I mean, we learn to deal with it, you overstep it, and then something good comes from it. So just accept it and trust the process, really. You know, just what's done's done, you know, and just believe that there is a bigger picture to it and the future's bright, you know, and if you choose to look at it that way, then that will be bright. If you're stuck thinking that was terrible, I've been unlucky, then you're stuck there, aren't you? Days go by, months go by, years go by, and you're still stuck thinking how unlucky I was. But the minute you start thinking, well, can't be changed, your life continues again. So it's just whatever you're going through, just try to accept it and just believe that something good is going to come from it. There's hope in that.
100%, bro. Do you think we should plant the seed so it's public to people, the ambition of setting up a foundation, so it's out there?
Yeah, we keep saying about doing it, and it's such an easy thing to do. Like, I've got everyone on board ready to go. We've actually just got to sit down and brainstorm just what we want to do with it. And like, it gives purpose to it, and you'd just be shocked at the difference that would make, like, to so many different people. And this was going back to you, like, telling the stories and listening to the stories. Like, some of my greatest moments in my life is watching somebody else do well. Like, I might achieve something myself and you don't really think about it, like walking, like, just take it on the chin. But actually, me telling somebody, trust the process, don't sweat the small stuff, just keep doing this, and then seeing them stand, it's like, wow. Like, my greatest moments from that. So if we started this foundation to go through tough challenges where you've battled to do it, getting a pot of money and then actually going and giving it to somebody and saying, here's your sports wheelchair, or here's the money for rehab. Like, how rewarding is that? So I think definitely let's stop thinking about it.
We do different outlook from life, though. What I'm interested to know is how much has that changed your opinion on money and materialism? Because in a world that seems to be so focused on that.
Mate, that is a topic I could talk to you for ages. Like, money, I don't like. And that is honestly, I've come to this conclusion, like, recently. Like, I've always been driven to be the best I can be at whatever I do. And ultimately, if you start a business and you're trying to do the best of it, money comes as a substitute to that. But the more I've earned and the more I've been worth, the less I've liked it. And that is, they say more money, more problems. Like, this is probably a topic for a whole new podcast, but I don't like it. Like, I genuinely don't. Like, it just changes people. And I don't like money. The more I've got, the less I've liked it. And that's the truth.
Man, I want to say, I say this to you all the time, but you've literally been my backbone and got me through. I honestly don't think I'd be here today if I didn't have you. I think what I've been through, and to have such a rock like yourself in my life, has just been the greatest thing I could ever ask for. And, like I said to you, it doesn't matter how many times I come to you with these problems, there are always solutions. And it's made me a better person. It's made me stronger. It's made me more resilient, more ambitious in life, seeing the things that you've achieved, how persistent you've been with those ambitions. It's weird to say it, but I'm now an author. I've written a book, and genuinely that comes down to so much of what you've done in my life. And I just want to say thank you. Like, it's no amount of money in the world can buy somebody like you. And, this friendship just means the world. Well, maybe, but they're a robot called Sven. But you are so special. And I think just to be able to have this platform now to continue to showcase the work that you do and the impact that you have, that means the absolute world to me. And, I guess this episode was a bit of a special, bringing Tanner on, because I couldn't actually think of anyone better to chat to about, I guess, the foundations of this book and where it's come from. But, this isn't just another book. Like I said, this doesn't come from a background with a degree. This just comes from the lessons that I've learned. And for most of you that have seen the things that I've gone on to set myself and achieve and overcome, that I would believe is testament to the substance that is within this book. And it covers such a wide range of topics, from relationships, parenthood, love, physically and mentally testing yourself, understanding what your why is, what you want to be remembered for, equally finding those solutions. I've been inspired by people like Tano and so many people around him to go on to do the things I've done, which have enabled me to write this book. It's now your opportunity to invest your time into this, to read this book and start your own. Everyone in life has the ability to do something special. It's all completely relative to that individual. And it doesn't matter how hard the process is, or if you feel like the world is going against you, there is always someone rooting for you in your corner. Now, although physically I might not be there with you, I want this book to be that. So embrace whatever it is that you're going through. And like Tano said, accept it, but know you have every fucking chance of overcoming anything that you are faced with. And just make sure that sometimes if you fall short, like Tano said, you know that you've given your every single ounce of yourself to that process, because at least you can take that away from it.
And then you go again. That is like, sometimes things don't happen straight away, do they? So you can always go again.
There are successes and there are lessons. The ones that were not the success become the lesson. And from those lessons become the success.
Lessons. Like, I genuinely think, the things you complete and do well at, you don't really learn much by. It's the things that you fail. That's where the lessons are, through the tough times. That is life.
Brother, thank you so much. And thank you to every single one of you who have listened to this app. This one means the world to me.
When does this come out? When is it actually on shelves? Is it
Thursday?
Is it? Okay.
The 30th.
Where will they be able to buy it? Is that like...
of May.
Yeah, but what, in Tesco's and places like that?
You can get it on Amazon, Waterstones. You can click the link in my bio. You can get the audio version. I spent 3 days in a studio recording that, which was a unique experience in its own. And
what language is that in?
Multiple. It's the power of AI, man. Comes in Elvish, Mandarin. No,
I thought AI though. That must be possible.
Yeah, no, I had AI change my accent, so I sound like Legolas from Lord of the Rings. Depends if you're into fantasy.
I just noticed that the publisher is Life as well.
And guys, like I said, just believe in yourselves. Anything is possible, and Tano sat here right now is testament to that. To you, to everyone, big love.
Peace out.
Bonsoir.
Tyson Fury would say, Happy New Year.
Yeah, boy.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, you fatted biscuit, all I ask of you in return is that you push that subscribe button and leave a review. Unless it's a bad one, you can keep that, you sausage. Your support, though, makes such a difference to this podcast and enables it to grow and connect with even more people around the world.